Welcome to Anime Fanjutsu, where we talk all things anime. It's great to have you with us, so let's dive right in.
Welcome to episode 19 of the podcast. It's Becky today, and I am here by myself, but I've got some fun things to talk about, so let's get started. First, I want to talk about Kaiju No. 8. Before I started watching it, I think I had a really different idea of what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a really serious show. If you look at the cover of the manga, it looks like it's going to be this really, really serious show. And it's actually pretty lighthearted and heartwarming. It definitely has some really heartfelt moments. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit and talk about some of my favorite characters. Christian isn't here today, but we're going to start with his favorite character because it's very rare that his favorite character would be the main character in a show, but in Kaiju No. 8, it is. It's Kafka Hibino. He is a character who, when the show begins, he's working as a cleaner, disposing of kaiju remains. So the Defense Force, which are the cool people that get rid of the kaiju, come out and destroy the kaiju. And of course, their remains are everywhere because some of them are rather large. And sometimes there's several of them, so there's remains everywhere. And they come out and clean them up. He has already tried out for the Defense Force several times, and he's never made it through. And he gets a new rookie assigned to him for him to kind of train and take under his wing on the cleanup crew. And it's this guy named Rino Ichikawa, and he's there because he wants to become a Defense Force member, and he knows that joining the cleaning crew, he's going to get a lot of insight into the kaiju and learn a lot about their anatomy and their powers and things like that. So he thinks this will help him on the exam to become a Defense Force member. And at first, it seems like he's going to be really uptight and he may not be a great fit for Kafka. But before you know it, they are bromance. And I love the bromance. Ichikawa is actually my second favorite character. Kafka is kind of this super sweet, good-natured guy that kind of starts out feeling like a loser in this show because he really wanted to join the Defense Force. He had a childhood friend named Mina, and she's actually a captain now in the Defense Force, and her face is on billboards, and a lot of people say that they wanted to join the Defense Force because of the example that she set and because they look up to her. And this was his childhood friend that he promised that he would be in the Defense Force by her side one day, and now she's the captain, and he's failed the entrance like 6 times. That's where it starts. And long story short, I won't give it away in case you haven't watched it because it is a fairly new anime. He becomes Kaiju No. 8. The kaiju are numbered when they are considered significant enough or show up more than once and get numbered. So he is the 8th kaiju to do that. So he's Kaiju No. 8. But he can transform into Kaiju No. 8 and back into himself. So at first, nobody knows except for Ichikawa. His bromance dude is the only person that knows. They go to take the Defense Force exam again, and the first part is the written exam. Makes it through that, flying colors, and then they go for the practical exam. And he doesn't want to cheat. He doesn't want to use his kaiju powers, so he really kind of bumbles through the practical exam. But as foreshadowed earlier by Ichikawa joining the cleaning crew to learn all this knowledge about kaiju, because he had such good spirit and such knowledge of how kaiju work, he was able to help defeat kaiju during the exam portion where some actual kaiju that were not supposed to attacked. That made him valuable. And so at first they don't actually accept him onto the Defense Force, but the vice captain accepts him as a cadet. Now, in the exam portion of the show, you meet Hikaru Shinomiya, and she is this young rookie who is like the youngest, most talented rookie to come through, maybe ever. She's a really, really good kaiju hunter, and come to find out, her dad is like the head of the entire Defense Force. So she's been trained for this, and she's got kind of a little tragic backstory like characters do. But at first, she comes across as really entitled and really bratty, and I really didn't like her. She can back up her ego with her actions. And so for a long time, even when she was doing really good and everything, I still didn't like her. But she was actually my husband's favorite character. He liked that she was like this little girl that was able to defeat all these kaiju. And she becomes more likable as the show goes on, and I do like her now. But at first, just be prepared not to like her, because I didn't like her, and now she's like one of the cool characters in this show. We talked a little bit about the vice captain, Hoshina. He's the one that actually recommended Kafka, the main character, to be a cadet because, one, he was impressed with his knowledge, and two, he just thought he was hilarious. He thought he was a hilarious guy. He thought he had a lot of heart, and so he takes him on as a cadet. What I love about Hoshina's character is he looks like a pretty small guy, and you see all of these other officers fighting with, like, Mina has a giant gun, and people have, like, all these big weapons. He has 2 small daggers that he fights with, and he is so fast and so good with these daggers that he can take out pretty substantial kaiju all by himself. And it's just a really cool dynamic to have him as this really cool character that's in Kafka's corner, and he's a close range kaiju fighter, and then he ends up battling Kafka, not realizing that Kafka is kaiju number 8. So he's fighting kaiju number 8, and he does sense that there's something weird about it. He senses, that kaiju number 8 isn't going full force on him and is kind of acting a little human-like, but he doesn't put 2 and 2 together then. But to see him be such a cheerleader for Kafka, and then fighting Kafka, and then later, after their battle's over, they are separated and are back at the barracks, and he's back as Kafka again. He's no longer in his kaiju form. He sees Hoshina, like, training super hard in the training room, and he realizes that he's training to fight kaiju number 8, which is him, which is terrifying because Hoshina is, like, super deadly with his weapons. He doesn't want to get killed by Hoshina, but he also doesn't want to hurt Hoshina because it's his vice captain. So it's just a really cool dynamic. The animation is really good, really crisp, really sharp. The fighting is really good. One of the things I really like is the use of light in the animation. When Kafka transforms into the kaiju, there's this blue light that comes out, and it's just really cool looking. It's hard for me to explain it on here, but you'll have to watch it. It looks really, really cool. And so I really, really like the animation. And towards the end of the season, more and more people start finding out that Kafka is kaiju number 8. But all the people that find out are his friends. And it kind of happens one at a time. Ichikawa already knows, and then Kikaru finds out, and then a couple other Defense Force members find out. And to be clear, the reason they're finding out is because he's having to save all of them in circumstances where they were going to get killed if he did not intervene in his kaiju form. So as people find out, they're not scared of him because they realize he's showing up to save them, and they realize it's their friend. But at the end of the season, it comes out to everybody that he is kaiju number 8. And they take him back to headquarters to decide whether they are going to dispose of him as a kaiju, or if they are going to let him live and be a weapon for the Defense Force. And one of the things I really, really loved is as he's getting in this armored truck to be carried off to headquarters, all of his squadron is standing outside. And I should mention, at this point, they have made him a full member of the Defense Force. He started as a cadet, but he proved himself very useful in a couple of the kaiju battles and got named on Hoshina, the vice captain's recommendation, to a full member of the Defense Force. So his squadron is there as he's being put into this truck, this armored truck with Mina. They are all supporting him, and Ichikawa actually steps out of line and yells out words of encouragement to him, and he knows he's coming back, that kind of thing. And it's just a really sweet bromance moment. All of his squadron, they're all rooting for him. Then they get in the truck closes, and Mina, who all of this time in the entire season has been very aloof and very cold to him and very captain to subordinate, like in her interactions with him, finally breaks that facade. And when there's no one there with them in the back of that truck, she is his friend and not just his captain. I'll not tell you how it ends because you might want to watch this, so I'm going to let you watch it. But first season is over and I loved it, so I am going to highly recommend this one. So the next thing I wanted to do today is a little game, and it came about because so many of the anime titles these days, I say these days, probably forever, but I've just noticed it more these days, that so many of these anime titles are ridiculously long, like a whole sentence. The first time that I ever heard one and I thought, wow, that's a really strange name, was that time I got reincarnated as a slime, because it's almost like a whole sentence. And so we're going to play a game today where I'm going to say a title of an anime and you have to guess, is it real or is it made up? Number 1, reincarnated as the royal butler, I must protect the princess and unravel my past. That is made up. I mean, it sounds just like it could totally be an anime that's on Crunchyroll right now, but it's not. Next, summoned to another world to defeat the Demon King, but I'd rather open a bakery. Again, that one is made up. It's crazy. It's crazy because it sounds real. Number 3 here. Life with an ordinary guy who reincarnated into a total fantasy knockout. That one is real. Believe it or not, that is real. That's what I'm saying. You can't tell the difference unless you've actually seen these or heard of these. You can't tell the difference between the ones that are completely made up and ridiculous and the ones that are real. Next. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? Also real. That is a real one. And also, why would you want your abilities to be average? Come on, think big. Next one. I got transported to another world, but my smartphone only works as a magic wand. That one is fake. Oh, one of my favorites. My cat became a demon lord, and now I have to save the world with him. Also fake, but it sounds like it could be real. My life as a background character in an otome game, avoiding death flags with style. It's fake. Sounds real, but it's fake. Saving 80,000 gold in another world for my retirement. That one's real. 7th time loop, the villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. That one is also real. It's an entire sentence. It's actually a little bit more than a sentence, and it is the title of an anime. Next, my mental choices are completely interfering with my school romantic comedy. That one really sounds fake, but it is real. That is a real anime. If you've watched these, let me know. Drop me a line and let me know that you've watched these if you have. Next, after failing to graduate, I became the strongest teacher in a school for heroes. That one is fake. Trapped in a dating sim as the weakest character, but I'm secretly the game master. Also fake, but sounds more real than some of the ones I have read that are real. Next, reborn as a vending machine, I now wander the dungeon. As ridiculous as that sounds, it is real. My son is actually watching that one right now. Christian has started that one and he actually likes it. So, recommendation from Christian, watch Reborn as a Vending Machine, I Now Wander the Dungeon. And our last one. I was reincarnated as the 7th prince so I can take my time perfecting my magical ability. That is a whole sentence, and it is also a real anime. So how many of those did you get right? Did you get them all right? Maybe you've seen these on Crunchyroll and you knew that they were real, the ones that were real, it was really hard for me with some of these, and especially because I don't watch all genres of anime. I mainly watch shonen and seinen, so some of these, I'm guessing, are not in those genres. That was a little more difficult for me than I thought it would be. The last thing I want to talk about today is Black Butler. Yes, I realize Black Butler has been out for a hot minute, but I only watched it recently in the last year, and I just finished it recently. And let me tell you how confused I was. First of all, we have said on this podcast repeatedly, if you don't want to watch the filler, which I don't, I'm not a filler watcher. If you don't want to watch the filler, go to animefillerlist.com and check the filler so you know which episodes to cut out. Stupidly, I did not do this for Black Butler. I should have. I don't know why I didn't. I think it mainly is because I was watching it by myself and I didn't know anybody else that had watched it. So nobody told me anything about, oh, this is where filler is. You should skip this. Sometimes I tend to rely a little too much on the people I'm watching with to tell me where the filler is and to cut it out. So I didn't do that for this. But this was so confusing, guys. Listen, season 1 starts out with canon. It's like the introductory arc here, right? Episodes 1 through 13 of season 1 are canon. Then episodes 14 through 24 are filler. I did not realize this. And listen, this story goes off the rails. It is so crazy, so far from the manga. So normally with filler, because it is filler and the manga is still in process, you don't want to do anything that's going to make it hard to go back into canon once the filler is over. So usually they bring in new characters, they go to different places, they do things that will absolutely have no impact on the real storyline. Black Butler did not do this, y'all. It did not do this. It was crazy. It had a pretty cool ending. I thought season 1 ended really well, but I did not realize it was filler. But like it literally ended with the death of one of the main characters. Then I started season 2. I was completely confused. I didn't know what was going on. I watched a few episodes and I'm like, this is crazy. This is so disjointed from season 1. It doesn't really go together. I wonder if this is filler. And after watching several episodes in season 2, I finally get the bright idea to look up and see, is this filler? And literally most of the end of season 1 and the entire season 2 are all filler. So starting at episode 14 until the end of season 2 is filler. That is insane to me. They had 13 episodes of canon and then 10 episodes of filler and then a whole season of filler. Why? That's crazy. Then season 3, which is Book of Circus, we're back to canon. But because I had watched this filler when I skipped over to season 3, I wasn't really sure where the cutoff point was for the canon episodes. I didn't remember what happened in episode 13. I don't know where that ended. And I just tried to watch season 3, Book of Circus, and it was like so confusing. It was like so much of the stuff I had watched, so much of the stuff that in my head was lore and canon did not happen. Take my advice. If you are going to watch Black Butler, even if you normally are a filler watcher, don't watch the filler. It's so confusing because all of the filler, like the filler is not even related to the other filler. It does not go together. I love Black Butler. I love CL Phantom Hive. I love Sebastian Michaelis. I highly recommend it, but watch the first 13 episodes and then skip straight to season 3, Book of Circus. And the rest of it from there on out is canon. So just a little friendly advice. I'm so glad that I got to be with you guys again this week. I'm sorry that we took such a long hiatus. I have some friends that are hopefully going to be on with us in the coming weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. If you have ideas of things you want us to talk about, send us an email or you can put them in the comments. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. You can email us at animefanjutsu@gmail.com. and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Anime Fanjutsu. We hope our discussion entertained you and made you want to watch even more anime. We'd love for you to follow us on our socials listed in the show notes and leave us a comment with what anime you'd like us to discuss. Tune in next time wherever you listen to podcasts.